What happens when you start beef with a rapper who is legendary, volatile, and as cold-blooded as Chief Keef? More often than not, starting a beef with Keef can go much deeper than rap and in some cases can lead to violence. Welcome back to Weirdly Interesting, and today we're going to be talking about what happened to Chief Keef's victims, starting off with a rapper named Lil Jojo, who literally lost his life shortly after dropping a diss track aimed at Chief Keef and his crew. Growing up in Chicago, Illinois, Chief Keef was trying to break into the rap game ever since he was a teenager. One of his earliest rivals just happened to be Lil Jojo, a rapper who repped the Gangster Disciples and was affiliated with the Brick Squad crew. Jojo was never close with Keef, but they came up in the same scene, and tensions had been rising between their sets for a while.
He didn't really want to rap until he heard Lil Durk's song, that L's Anthem. Cause we heard on the radio, like we driving, you know, it was me and him. I remember we driving, boom. He said, Brick Squad, we say like this on the radio, fool. You know what I'm saying? You ran, you talking about radio. Man, he went crazy, fool. He ain't like that. He said, you heard that, bro?
Back then, Jojo was gaining traction on the internet, but something went wrong between them, which led to Jojo calling out Keef's crew by name in a video for his track BDK, short for Black Disciple Killer. In tweets and online videos, Jojo taunted Keef and his close friend Lil Reese, even going as far as to post their locations. However, the core problem between them was rooted in real street affiliations, not just rap. As always, Chief Keef doesn't let anyone diss his name without clapping back somehow. Keef responded simply on Twitter, where he was clearly unfazed. "It's sad cuz Jojo wanted to be just like us. LMAO. Shortly after they had been throwing shots back and forth online, Lil Jojo lost his life when he was shot while riding a bike in the Inglewood neighborhood of Chicago.
On September 4th, 2012, tragedy struck when young Jojo was shot after posting a tweet tagging his location. The shooting was carried out by an unknown assailant in the Southside Chicago neighborhood.
Now, some may say that this was all just one big coincidence. However, when you take into consideration that Keef tweeted "ha ha ha" just hours after Jojo's death, it definitely makes you think twice. Additionally, instead of offering condolences, Chief Keef instead decided to mock the situation publicly.
He tweeted, "It's sad because that nigga Jojo wanted to be just like us," and said, "I know the real Brick Squad, #300.
By laughing online, Keef made it crystal clear who he was referring to. After all, Jojo had gone after his entire crew, and with him gone, Keef was happy to let the internet know exactly how he felt. But this didn't mean that every member of the crew was just going to take it lying down. Lil J was also part of Jojo's Brick Squad, and he was really close to Lil Jojo. Not only did he make multiple diss tracks aimed at Chief Keef and his affiliates, but he even publicly claimed responsibility for keeping the BDK movement alive long after Jojo's death. While behind bars, Lil J was reportedly still throwing shots at Keef and his camp through phone interviews and letters. And the police, aware of his reputation, kept a close eye on him due to concerns that he might try to retaliate upon release. There's a common belief that J's ongoing influence helped keep the tension between Jojo World and 300 alive. However, J's incarceration on gun-related charges delayed any potential action from his side, leading some people to think that if he had been free, the conflict with Keef could have reignited in a serious way. As for Keef and Lil J, the two were never cool. In fact, they came up on opposite sides of Chicago's gang map and had been dissing each other since the drill scene exploded in the early 2010s. Once Jay gained some buzz off tracks like Bars of Clout and Take You Out Yo Glory, the disrespect between them only escalated. Jay even tweeted threats and released visuals mocking members of Keef's crew. When you're dealing with someone as volatile as Keef, publicly antagonizing him isn't a great idea. Soon, Keef and his affiliates were clowning Lil J on social media, mocking his dance moves and questioning his street credibility after certain videos surfaced online.
Keef wasn't really nobody like in the streets, so it ain't really making me feel no type of way. Yeah, he was a goofy in the streets.
Unsurprisingly, Lil J clapped back, throwing shade of his own in interviews and in songs, referring to Keef as an industry plant and accusing him of turning his back on Chicago. The two kept throwing subliminal shots back and forth on wax, thankfully avoiding things tipping over into direct violence. However, there was an incident where someone associated with JoJo World was allegedly jumped at an event by people connected to Keef, though this was never confirmed. Since then, Lil J eventually opened up about what happened between them and basically suggested the whole thing was deeper than rap, but had been blown out of proportion by the internet. Any idea that Lil J would ever be competing with Chief Keef in terms of fame are long gone, but the Chicago tension doesn't stop there. Another close figure that Chief Keef had a falling out with was Tato. At first, Keef and Tato were tight to the point that they were in nearly every video together, dropping tracks like Haircut and Gucci, which combined for millions of views on YouTube alone. Tato was even considered one of the core members of Glow Gang during Keef's rise.
New Margiela, man. Me, smoking duck goose. You mean, nigga.
Tato came up under Keef's wing and was part of the original drill movement that put Chicago on the map. Although Keef clearly saw him as family, over time things between them began to shift. While the details are mostly speculation, many believe that Tato's erratic behavior and controversies, like his public incident involving Cuban Doll, started to create problems for Keef, who was trying to move more quietly and grow his brand beyond street drama. Keef seemed to respond not with diss tracks, but with distance. Over the years, Tato appeared less and less in Keef's music and videos, and by the sounds of it, Keef was no longer trying to carry anyone who might slow him down. He never addressed it directly, but the separation was clear, especially when Glow Gang tours and projects started rolling out without Tato being involved. By now, Tato appears to be doing his own thing and has stayed relatively quiet in terms of any public fallout. Because Keef is older and more focused on business now, he likely still sees Tato as blood, but not someone to be around 24/7. In an old Instagram live, Keef was once asked about Tato and simply responded with a smirk, not throwing shade, but not offering much either.
We sliding your shit, boy. Don't be acting like no shit small. Yeah, we can't do it. We can't go. It says too late at night or my mom.
Before then, stating in another post that he still got love for the gang, even if everybody ain't moving the same way no more. Where the beef between Tato and Chief Keef was handled quietly before things could get too messy, the same cannot be said for Ball Out, who he fell out with back when he was on his come up. Now, if you're not familiar with this artist, he's another MC from Chicago who was part of the original Glow Gang circle. During the beginnings of Keef's career, the pair collaborated on a couple of tracks together, such as Diamonds, Right Now, and Go In. But according to Ball Out, he was one of the first to really rep Glow Gang hard and felt like he was doing more for the crew than he was getting back. At one point, he even claimed credit for putting people onto Keef's sound and holding things down in the streets while Keef was away.
Man, y'all like, comment, subscribe, stay posted, man. Chief Keef and Ball Out and Tarantino got some new music videos on the way, man. They steady working, man. The whole Glow Gang's dropping music.
Always ready for drama, Ball Out stirred things up when he allegedly stole Soulja Boy's chain and flaunted it online, drawing attention and ridicule from fans and media alike.
Man, this is a big ass tree. It's like 1,000 strong. It's very thick. So it costs like $10,000 a piece.
Keef didn't come to his defense and instead kept his distance, apparently letting the fallout play out on its own. However, as usual, Keef would eventually get the last laugh when Ball Out started getting pushed further to the sidelines during Glow Gang's rise. According to speculation, Ball Out was eventually benched from key tours and projects, and although no official word came from Keef, the message was clear. Since then, Ball Out's been relatively quiet and eventually posted messages showing love to Glow Gang, claiming he was always loyal and shouldn't have let things go the way they did. Although a lot of rappers that Chief Keef has beefed with have faded into obscurity after he was done with them, some have stood strong like Tekashi 6ix9ine. Back in the day, 6ix9ine and Keef were never close, but Tekashi frequently mentioned Keef in interviews and social media, claiming he respected what Keef had done for drill.
No, word. What about this Chief Keef thing, man? You
I'm
heard
a
about
big
that?
fan. I'm a big fan of Chief Keef.
You're a big fan?
How much you think a feature costs from Chief Keef?
Maybe ask him. You know, you guys had some back and forth on Twitter and, you know, Instagram and stuff. It's all good.
But suddenly, either his trolling got out of hand, or he just straight up disrespected Keef by calling him irrelevant and mocking his influence on a new generation. Many thought he was throwing shade towards Keef to boost his own image in the rap game. Although it's unclear if this was meant as a direct diss, what I do know is that Tekashi was clearly trying to bait Keef into a response. Shortly after the comments went viral, Keef responded with a subtle jab, but things escalated fast. Tekashi, always ready for attention, posted videos taunting Keef and even claimed he wasn't scared to go to Chicago. Then, in a move that crossed a line, he allegedly ordered a hit on Keef while he was in New York. According to court documents and confirmed testimony during 6ix9ine's federal case, one of his associates did indeed shoot at Keef outside the W Hotel in Times Square.
Chicago rapper Chief Keef is doing fine tonight after being shot at in New York. The 22-year-old seen here in this file video was outside the W Hotel in Manhattan early this morning when a single bullet came at him. He wasn't hit, nor was anyone else. New York City police are now trying to figure out if the 22-year-old was targeted.
After that, Keef kept things quiet, refusing to name drop Tekashi or acknowledge him publicly, but fans knew what was going on. This meant the battle lines were drawn, and in mid-2018, Tekashi kept throwing gas on the fire, claiming he was in O Block at 10 p.m., though it turned out to be a staged video recorded during daylight hours. But things didn't get too bad until a couple years later when 6ix9ine became a federal informant. During that time, Keef's name wasn't in the paperwork, but many fans pointed out that Tekashi avoided ever dissing him again once he was cooperating. Still, Tekashi had made it clear in interviews that he never feared Keef and called him washed up. As you can imagine, this was the kind of disrespect Keef didn't take lightly, even if he never responded directly. Like Keef, who built his name off street credibility, being called irrelevant or fake is about as serious a shot as you can take. Unsurprisingly, fans kept the feud alive by flooding Keef's comments with clown emojis and baiting him into responses. Keef never bit. Still, Tekashi kept poking the bear, saying that Keef was scared of him and that the old Sosa was long gone. Disrespected once again, the two were officially enemies in the eyes of the internet. Later that year, 6ix9ine tried to add insult to injury by comparing sales numbers, posting his chart positions, and mocking Keef for not charting. Still, when Tekashi was sentenced and taken into federal custody, Keef surprisingly didn't celebrate. This seemed like an olive branch, and it probably was. It also could have to do with the fact that Keef had long since moved to LA and left the drama behind. But there was still one thing bothering Tekashi about Keef, and it wasn't anything street related, but rather Keef's fan base and how they wouldn't stop clowning him. With all chances of any mutual respect between them gone, Keef clapped back in the most Sosa way possible by ignoring him completely. As you can probably tell, a lot of Chief Keef's fallouts start off as a case of loyalty gone unrewarded, and that's definitely the case with Capo. When he first came out the gate, the influence of Keef on Capo's style was pretty obvious, and he didn't hide his loyalty. At one point, he was seen in nearly every Glow Gang video and was widely considered one of Keef's closest proteges, but unfortunately, that affiliation would end in tragedy. It all started after Capo returned to Chicago during a time when Keef was already living in Los Angeles. As usual, the streets were still hot, and Capo's movements were being watched closely by rival sets. Any chance of Capo and Keef continuing to build a legacy together was pretty much over when Capo was shot and killed in broad daylight. Reports said he was hit while walking outside, and the incident was caught on video. The loss shook fans, but controversy soon followed when people began asking why Keef hadn't returned to the city or attended the funeral. It's unclear what exactly Keef's intentions were, but to some fans, this felt like abandonment. So he quickly tried to make things right by organizing a Stop the Violence concert in Capo's name, with proceeds meant to go to his family. Just for good measure, Keef also promised to cover the funeral expenses himself, though some reports claimed that others had to step in to finalize things. Considering how close they were, you'd expect that Keef would have been front and center, but he insisted that staying away was for his own safety. While Keef's gesture might have been seen as respectful, it didn't stop there. He later posted a tribute video for Capo and included clips from their early days together. Keef even stated in an interview that Capo was really one of the realest, and that losing him hurt more than he let on. Thanks for watching.